but we need you to hang in there. We have 6 speakers, so we're going to have 2 kind of half-hour talks and then 4 lightning talks. Lightning, remember, they're going to be quick and get to that kind of 3:30 mark. I'm going to finish up. I am going to take a little line there from Brian who said, so, you know, it's many former chairs of LIR, so it is a bit like Doctor Who reunion a little bit. So without further ado, I'll just introduce all the talks instead of coming back and forth up to kind of introduce. So I'm going to have John Costello, Electronic Resources Librarian at University of Galway.
So a lot of subtle hints there from James, so I'll try and make this fast as everyone wants to get out of here on a Friday. This will probably be a lighter presentation, some of the other ones. Basically, I was looking at this in the summer, look at the 30-year anniversary of LIR. I was looking back and thinking, we're heading towards Christmas. So we look at the ghost library catalogs, past, present, and future. That is kind of, I was looking back at the catalogs that were, when I was there first in UCG, moving on to the National University of Ireland, Galway, now on to the University of Galway. 3 different universities all in the same building since I have been working there. So starting off, Christmas of 1993, the LIR's first Christmas, I believe. As you can see there, Mr. Blobby was the Christmas #1, if anyone can remember back that far as well. We had the Downing Street Accord, and also LIR had just started. And with that, the UCG had just been 2 years into moving from their very high-tech catalogue on the left there, the card catalogue, moving on to the Dynex system. And this was their first ever catalogue where they were going to require PCs or even terminals. It was a dumb terminal setup. And this was big news all over the university. And I even remember seeing some of the old newsletters advertising how you could actually come in and look at a computer to find your books now. One of those. And even looking forward then, a few years later, Peter Corrigan, the systems librarian, who I believe was one of the answers to that first question that Anya was mentioning earlier, the one set out in the listserv. He wrote and connected the first web OPAC connecting to Dynex for UCG. And basically, as you can see there, it's a very basic, but you could do your search. And when I was looking at some of the code back then, as you can see, it was simple using the old CGI bin and getting a submit query in. And you can even see some of the old values in there. The IP address of Darcy, which was the old Dynex server back then, connecting into the database and changing name, going on the US mark. And then Peter, as everyone will remember back then, wrote a Perl script as well, just to see could he get a bit more out of it. You can see calling opac.pl. So this was like the very start back in UCG, or how they're actually trying to get into their catalog and basically moving to online. And also as well, as you can see, it was using Telnet. It was in the background. It actually, you couldn't access it via the web. It had to be a Telnet session. And I remember back then you had to use, they were using a Java emulator on the old website, but it actually opened up a Telnet frame and you could go in and search the catalog. And that's how it was done. I even managed to find some of the old service updates for the universities in the LIR back when I was going back through the old website. And you can see here, Peter had put an actual report on how the library was actually then using Dynex 161. And this is I think it was 98, 99, it was towards then, because you can see one of the lines is they're actively and currently engaged in seeking a replacement system. I was just 1 year in working, I think, at this stage. I was the systems assistant, and all I remember of Dynex was if a dumb terminal was broken, I was running up and down stairs, looking at a big ports in mine, pulling wires, putting a wire in, running back up, hitting a control brake to see could I get a signal. And that was the height of technology for us back then. Moving on then, if anyone recognize any of these, we're now into the Christmas of 2001. The Christmas #1 was Robbie Williams, Nicole Kidman, something kind of stupid. Bionicle was the #1 toy if you were buying any toys for your kids that time. And for anyone that know me, that particular gentleman in the middle was a young Tom Brady who had just started playing for the Patriots and was about to lead them on a very happy 20 years. And also that summer we had just moved to a new catalog style called Aleph. And one of the big differences then was Aleph was a client system for us. We hadn't that far before. It had been set up. You could actually access a web catalog now, probably came with one. You could see how the architecture worked back then. We had a GUI client, which was basically, we went around and installed on everyone's PC that was working, acquisitions modules, ILL. We also had ones for circulation. We then had a WW server, which is basically for our OPAC servers running on that. There's a 3950 clients we were using for EndNote and other librarians to be able to connect in and search. This was a brand new structure for us, but one of the big things that this brought was an awful lot of ability to actually customize the catalog for what you wanted to do. We had all the tables. You would log into the server, edit all these tables from the back end, and you can even see that some of the tables here which were related to editing for the online OPAC and catalog. It gave an awful lot of flexibility to what you could do and how you could actually run your catalog back then. Basically nowadays you see it's the black box you couldn't see here, but back in the early 2000s, you could get in and tool around and make all the changes you needed to make. This was a very familiar screen for us back in the day. This is where you actually use all your servers. You'd log in. If a server was down, you couldn't access the OPAC. You usually went straight into util-w, open up and restart the servers. If you were dropping tables for, should we say, circulation, because you're at different loan times, you were going into the A file administration and building. This was the back end for the systems librarians back then when they were using their catalogs. But then also for the users of staff, it had a GUI, which was a new concept. Up until, like I said, Darcy and Dynex, when we were using it first, it was the old terminals. And for a movie years ago, when you went up to it, shall we play a game, would have been what we would have called back then. It was the old style dumb terminal. This was now running off PCs. This was all off networks, GUI clients. So it was the first graphical user interface we had. And you could make your changes to your records and everything in the background. Also, it brought along with it a brand new web OPAC. Up until that point, like I was saying, we had to telnet in. That was the only option you had. But now you had a whole brand new web service where you could log in. You could actually have your own preferences, go into databases. ILL was linked in. You could send feedback. You could have an e-shelf. If you were doing searches, you could save your searches and all that. It started opening up the entire world of basically building up your own database of records, your own searches, and start going into that universe and that sphere where your users could actually set their preferences and start interacting a bit more with the library. Moving on then to 2017. Once again, the Christmas #1, Ed Sheeran. All right. That toy there is the for real roaring Tyler, the playful tiger. And the fact that I could even remember to say that would have been the hardest part of this presentation. Also, there you can probably see the sufficient progress made in Brexit talks. My God, they were very, very hopeful back in 2017. I think that was going to all go so well. We had moved on then to Alma. Alma was now the new portal for looking at our new library management system. And the main thing about that is we had now gone to software as a service. So we no longer had the clients anymore. We no longer, it's all in the cloud now. And it was all run from that. And one of the big things about that is brought out a lot of improvements. We also brought out a lot of changes to automate things and make life easier now for the librarians. So as one thing you can see there, for instance, is we now have the MARC record. You can see it on the left. But every MARC record that's created now, automatically a bib frame will be done too. So you don't have your linked data in the background going forward. These are the things now that have been starting to go in the back end when you're doing the library catalog. Also, as well, you can see the new looks and feel. The library catalog now is embedded into the website. It's no longer, after some kind of market research and looking through, didn't want a separate catalog for students. They wanted an easier interface to use with. So now when you come to the library website, that is the catalog there. You can see the interface at the bottom. Just search your catalog, journals and databases, given that Google effect. Also now as well, you can see records have improved and all that. We now have faceting. These are all the things that have come along with acceptance. But even something as simple as you can see, it's no longer just finding the book. We have our e-resources, and you can actually go straight to the e-resource online. You can see a Christmas Carol there, read directly online. You don't even have to go off and find it. It'll now link it in, and some of the open access as well will bring in the PDF. Also as well, as I was saying, you now have facets. You can bring it all out. You can basically go in, you can refine your searches down. This has all been leaps and bounds of change. If you think even on 30 years ago when we were starting looking at a text-based search. Also even things now, the Irish language. We provide in the university all the translations now for any of the Alma libraries in Ireland. So there's actually in Primo as well. So all of the actual Irish terminology is done, translated, uploaded, everything. So basically, you don't even have to do your translations anymore. It's basically all done in the background for you. You can just activate it and switch it over. Whereas back in the previous days, we've had to have people there creating in a separate instance, putting all these terms in. So these are some of the changes that have come from a basic catalog to where we are now. And as you can see as well, everything's changed except the name, obviously, because don't have an Irish name, it's whatever your record comes from. That brings us to where we were in the present now, but what's going to go into the future? I was at a few talks over the summer there for Igloo and for EPUG. I suppose there's no talk today in tech if you don't get AI written into your presentation somewhere. And as you can see now, this is some of the new search interfaces they're breaking out from Xlibris. As you can see on the right, not only do you have your search box, you also have your voice search, but you now have the little AI button beside it as well. And what some of the things they're looking at now, and I think they're currently testing and could be coming around next year, is basically it's similar to a ChatGPT interface. So now you're going to be putting into your discovery platform or into your OPAC, you'll be putting in your questions. So you can see there, what does Al-Bulder's Queer now write about? And as you can see, it'll pull the information out and bring it in and lay it all out in front of you there. It's creating an AI answer, but one of the big differences is we know with something like ChatGPT, you don't know where you're getting information for. What they've done here is they have linked it into ProQuest One Literature, which is over 500,000 full text documents, I think. So they're pulling all the information from that. And as you can see, it'll actually reference where it comes from. You can summarize it and you can go into where the dissertations are, where it's pulling its answers from, and it's all in there. Then there's also got the next discovery experience, and this is using more of linked data, where basically you go in, you can do your search, and it will do basically a semantic search where it'll check what all the relationships are. So, for instance, searching Albert Einstein, as you can see on a linked data record, to pull out where he went to university, who would have taught him, what books he wrote, what books were written about him. All this will be done in the search, and then will be presented out to you as you're going through. So basically, it's no longer just doing your simple search for an Albert Einstein as if a book was going to come back. Now you're going to get a semantic search where it's going to do an actual relative check for you. So basically, that's the talk of where we were going to the future. I would like to thank all those people on screen from the archives and Anywhere Go and Special Collections who basically gave me some of the old newsletters going back. Also, Xlibris were able to give me some of the presentations, and of course the LIR committee as well for giving me the opportunity to help me through this summer. So that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, John. That was a very interesting presentation. And do we have any questions from the floor?
I know the last I was reading up, they were talking possibly the end of next year. They do have it currently at the moment, I think, in testing. There's a user group testing. There's like 5 or 6 libraries and institutions that are rolling out testing, looking at the user interface, how it's going to roll through on that. Obviously, as well, they have a lot of commitments in. They're, let's say, unlike a black box, they're actually showing, they partner with a group called AI 21 Labs, I believe, and they're showing how the information is being found out, where it's pulling from. And the important part as well, they're looking for legal reasons as well, also with like laws in Europe. So they actually have all the information there. It's pulled out where you can see it's coming from. And so I believe, yeah, they're talking about maybe end of next year.
The last one.
Currently, it's going under the new discovery experience. It's coming from Xlibris, basically, which is they currently do Alma and Primus, which we were using now. So just like I was saying, I was at one of their user group meetings over the summer, and basically they were showing some of the things that are coming forward. So basically they've got 2 styles. They have one where it'll be kind of based, like I was saying, on the linked data format. And they have another one as well that will be built using, say, current, abstracts and general information and, say, the CDI, which will be pulling in as well. They have different models they're working on, integrating AI into basically creating more and more intuitive catalog searching. The big thing they want to do is they're kind of moving away from the requirement that you need to be able to build a search query. They basically want to put in a natural language. So you would ask the catalog a question as you would ask a librarian. So how would I basically, something along the, I need to find out, say, what is the difference between Wordsworth and Byron and their writing? What is that writing style? you put that into the catalog and it'll actually put the data out for you and put it that way. So it's trying to make it, I suppose, an easier search experience for the user.
Sorry. I'm just going to stay away from that. I was just wondering about like two questions. One of them is, where is this catalog relating to VLE? And then, is can it be part of the VLE? And the second one is the student ready? Like, are you assessing, where the student is? Do the students expect this now?
I suppose, well, the VLE, I know there are ways of integrating the current models of Primo and stuff. So basically, you can either put the search, you can put the search interface directly in, or also as well, you can do permanent links where it'll pull in and bring information in that. There's also work that can be done through APIs that will bring in, depending on what the level you're going to go through. As for the students now, think the likes of ChatGPT and the AI and all those kind of things, they're coming through. And I think basically it's trying to stop anything like that now is basically trying to close the gate after the horse is bolted. Those tools are out there now and people are using those tools. And I think as librarians and as data, I suppose, guardians of the data and guardians of research and guardians of knowledge, we have to accept that these are the kind of tools that are going to be going forward. So in these kind of platforms, do we want to have tools where we don't know where the data is coming from? Is the data valid? Is the data usable? Or can we stand over where it's actually using quality? It's actually using peer-reviewed research. Now, there's also another there's a whole other argument then of basically where you're going to get a repository that you can start filling with enough resources and enough, say, peer-reviewed articles that you can pull from that. And that's a different thing. I know, like I was saying, the first one they're using as a test is Literature 1, and that's got 500,000 articles that can stand over. So these are the kind of hurdles that we look going forward. But I do think coming forward, I think students are going to expect easier access. They're using it now. Even something as simple as I've seen job applications where you're actually getting the same letter from 7 different people on different things. It's basically, they've obviously went in and got to ChatGPT and typed job application letter for this particular job, and it just comes out and it's just like 7 places over. Just all it is a different name and address, and it's the exact same letter. So the tools are being used.
No. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.